GECOM is a reflection of the attitude of the government, says AP and UFC Commissioner Vincent Alexander. He noted that what has happened within GECOM is a dysfunctional commission.
Fortunate situation where our chairperson seemed not to have a mind of her own, and therefore the government has taken full control of GECOM. They've imposed upon GECOM a CEO and a DCO, both of whom did not meet the requirements. And so basically GECOM is slavishly serving the purpose of the government. Fundamental things GECOM refused to do. Such a fundamental thing is refused simply to do a review of the last elections. There were so many problems with the elections that they themselves speak about, but they refused to do a review, and therefore GECOM has not put itself in a position where it can identify the issues that need to be confronted.
Alexander was speaking during an interview with reporters. He said he's not confident that GECOM can run off an election that is above board.
Because GECOM is currently under the control of a regime that seeks to use the election machinery to benefit itself. I can't be confident. But not being confident does not mean that I can sit back and simply allow them to do what they're doing. We have to wage a certain struggle for change in that regard. And the first way of waging that struggle is exposing what they're doing.
Alexander feels that some of the issues during the 2020 general and regional elections were not addressed, even at the level of the law reform.
They said they had law reform in relation to the Representation of the People's Act, in relation to the National Registration Act. Has that law reform addressed the fact that admittedly our voters list includes tens of thousands of dead people who live overseas? And not only do they live overseas, but has that law reform been responsive to the fact that the Chief Immigration Officer in 2020 responded to GECOM's request for verification as to whether a number of persons in thousands were out of the country, but the documentation available to GECOM showed they were voted for. The reform has not responded to that. That is a fact. And everyone in this country seems either not to ignore or to try to juxtapose to the fact that the Chief Immigration Officer provided GECOM with information to say these people were not in the country. And we saw in 2022 Nandalal publicly saying that they want all of the documentation the AP and UFC had submitted to GECOM. And he went on further to say he wanted the documentation so that the relative body could verify that in fact what the APNU was doing was a fraudulent act. He got the information. 2 years have passed, and he has been the government has been patently silent on the verification that they said would have been done.
General and regional elections are due next year. Both the PNCR and the Alliance for Change have called on GECOM to fix the weaknesses in the system and for a clean voters list. GECOM has not responded to those calls.